So when I saw this case on Newegg the other day, I figured, why not? Let's build a Mini-ITX. I haven't done it before. As you can see, this is a high airflow case with venting on both the side and the back. As we flip the case up top, we can see that there's a power button and a single USB port. Fortunately, there'll be more in the rear I/O. I wish they would have had a second one, but with a small build like this, I think we're lucky to have what we have. So let's continue looking at this and then we'll build the system. Just a bit of foreshadowing, this will make me miss my larger case builds. Okay, so if you've watched my videos by now, you know that I'm a fan of reusing older components. So here we've got a E5 2609 Series 0 Intel Xeon processor that I pulled out of one of the servers in my home lab when I decided I wanted to upgrade. We're going to go ahead and reuse this in this system, pairing it with some Patriot Viper DDR3 RAM, and putting it into a machinist board, similar to the one that I did on my first video. This one's just an X79 board instead of an X99, which lets you use the V3 and V4 processors. But for the purpose of what we're building, this should work just fine. I figured for this build, since the case is completely see-through except for the top and bottom, it'd be nice to go with a motherboard that had some color to it, just to enhance the visual aesthetics. And we'll throw a little tasteful RGB in there with the fan as we move on further down the build. Now, as you can see, this is supposed to be in the Mini-ITX form factor. We've got one PCIe 16 slot for the graphics card, 2 slots for RAM, your CPU slot, and all of your power and your peripherals on this nice little package. So let's get the CPU seated, the RAM put in, and once we get this system together, we'll put the fan on and we'll go from there. Okay, so for storage, I picked up this Fanzhang 500 gigabyte NVMe drive off of Amazon for pretty cheap on a sale. So let's use that, as it'll be plenty fast for this system. In fact, it might move a little bit faster than our final CPUs. I said foreshadowing to come. And we'll get that installed. The nice thing about this board is that it uses a stacked M.2 slot, so you could potentially put a Wi-Fi M.2 underneath your hard drive NVMe. And then you'd have a nice complete package with Wi-Fi, since this board doesn't come with onboard Wi-Fi already installed. Okay, so for cooling, we had to get a little bit creative because the case is height limiting. So I found this unbranded CPU fan on Amazon, I think for like 15 bucks. It's not a very expensive fan. You can see here that it's got some aluminum heatsink to it. There's no copper pipes, unfortunately. So we'll get that installed, get it plugged in. Of course, we're going to remember to remove that little vinyl piece before we install it so we don't undo any of the heating capabilities of the cooler. So let's throw this together. Space is going to be a little tight. Let's see how this works. Okay, so fun fact, the Patriot Viper RAM that I got for this is just a little too tall to fit in with the cooler. Fortunately, I have some of this Team Group RAM that I bought for another project, and so we'll go ahead and use that in this build, and we'll use the Patriot RAM in that other project that's going to come later down the line. So now with everything test fit, we'll go ahead and lock the fan bracket into place so that we can do the final install of the fan onto the board. Okay, so keeping with the theme, tiny system means tiny power supply. So again, I went to Amazon and picked up this Apia 400 watt ITX form factor power supply for, I think it was about 35, 40 bucks. It wasn't very expensive. So we're going to go ahead and take this out of the box. We'll hook up the power to the 24 pin, and then we'll go ahead and jump the board just to make sure it starts up, the fan spins, all that good stuff before we go through the process of installing this into the case. Hey, look at that. It turns on. So let's go ahead and now get everything put into the case and we'll see how this little mini system comes together. Okay, so one of the nice things about this case is that it uses some pretty large thumb screws to take the panels off. So we'll go ahead and take those off, take that protective film off the acrylic so that it's nice and clear, and then we'll go ahead and start actually putting the components into the system. Okay, so every so often you come across one of those builds that just makes you want to stop and have a nice adult beverage. This happens to be one of those. As you can see here, the supposed M-ITX board that I bought is not quite form factor and is just ever so slightly too big to fit in the case. So I had to jump back on Amazon, and with the magic of video editing, and a couple days later, we have a true M-ITX case that fits a third generation i5. So this is going to be more of a utilitarian computer than a gaming system, but we'll make it work for something. I'm sure of it. So now that you can see this board on here, this again is just a no-name board. I found the cheapest board I could find. It was literally 45 bucks. And it fits in the system very nicely. So we'll go ahead, get that CPU on, get the fan switched over, and we'll get this put into the system and all installed and hopefully have a nice working product at the end of it. Okay, good. This board spins up too. You know what I said previously about wanting an adult beverage? Well, now it's even more so. The fan that was supposed to be low profile turns out still to be just a hair too tall for this system. So instead of having a non-stock cooler that could heat away faster and potentially help the system perform better, I've now had to go to an old Intel stock cooler that I fortunately had sitting around. So this is gonna be kneecapped even more just because heat dissipation's not gonna be very good. Okay, so I forgot to mention earlier that for graphics card, we're going to be using the RTX 2060 that I used for my first system that I built. I figure with this old of a processor, anything more than this, and you would just have a big CPU bottleneck. I'm pretty sure we're still going to have one, but let's go ahead and put this in here for fun. You know, on some builds, sometimes there's just a time where you got to break out the power tools, and this was one of those builds, and this was one of those times. So, you know, if you don't happen to have an impact driver on hand and you want to use this case, fine. Might want to look into investing in one. Just saying. Okay, struggle is real. Let's go ahead, turn this on. We'll install Windows, do some benchmarking, try and play a couple games, and see what else we can do on this. Oh yeah, another fun fact about this system is that you can't use the USB 3 slot until you get an operating system installed, so we've got to put the USB stick in the rear I/O of the system to be able to install Windows. Okay, now that Windows is installed, let's go ahead and look at the specs. As you can see, this is an i5 3570 CPU that's supposed to be able to run at 3.4 gigahertz. At the moment, we're getting 2.11 gigahertz. This is a 4-core, 4-threaded CPU. So if you're wanting to do virtualization or anything like that, this isn't going to really be the CPU for you, as you don't have virtualization capabilities really with only 4 cores, unless you wanted to throw a small Linux system on there, or maybe a couple Docker containers. You might be able to do that with this system. As far as memory goes, we're running 16 gigabytes at 1600 megahertz, so there's not going to be a memory bottleneck for this processor. That's nice. Now, let's get to some benchmarking. As you can see here, I've pulled up Task Manager, so you can see this is the same system. Fun fact, this system wouldn't run Cinebench, at least the version that I use, so I'm going to just skip right to the Heaven benchmarking system. This will test, 3D rendering, physics, and such. It's going to rely mostly on the GPU and not tax the CPU too much, but for what we're wanting to use this system for, at least see what we can use the system for, this will at least be a good test to tell us how well it goes. All things considered, this wasn't too bad of a benchmark. I mean, at 103 FPS, even though the minimum FPS was 9, under high quality settings, we could potentially do some gaming with this system. So let's go ahead and try maybe some Fortnite and some Minecraft and see how well those run. So first off, we're going to try Minecraft on high settings, not epic. I don't think this could handle epic to save its life, but we'll see how stuttery that is, and we'll adjust the quality settings as we go along. Okay, wrong on the high settings. That was really stuttery. Let's go ahead and drop it to medium and see if that helps it at all. Nope, nope, still not good. Let's go ahead and drop it to low. As you can see here, though, I'm using a 2K monitor, so if I dropped it down to 1080p, that might help, but I really don't want to have to do that, as there's a lot of 2K monitors out. So Fortnite did okay on this little system that tries. Let's go ahead and jump over to Minecraft and see how well we do there. Now, again, I should note that this is Minecraft Vanilla, so we're not really using any of the mods that would bog down the system. So on just a standard vanilla Minecraft build, you can see that, again, we're only using 30-something% of the GPU and in the 50s of the CPU. So as far as performance goes, we're not being bogged down at all. There is some stutters back and forth that could be due to the processing between, the components, but overall, this works pretty well for a Minecraft system. Okay, so this is a system that could be used for some casual gaming. I'd like to think that it would be more maybe a business setup, especially with the handle on this case. I could see somebody taking this, let's see, to trade shows or to a meeting with, individuals, and maybe that way you're not relying on your laptop for everything. You can have a dedicated computer that's not too expensive to build, and it can handle a lot of just business tasking materials. At the end of the day, after playing some Minecraft, I set this thing up to do some folding at home. It's a great project that has a lot of benefits, and I think everybody could, take part in this in their spare time. So give it a check if you want to devote some of your computer power to science. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Please make sure to do all the YouTube things on the way out, like, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you guys would like to see in the future. I think I'm going to take a small break from showing these builds, and I've mentioned my home lab several times, so maybe we'll do a home lab tour or two through, in the next few videos and see how that goes.